You're inside the Progressive Talk Zone with House of Public Discourse founder and host, Johnny Hill.
Welcome to the Progressive Talk Zone. I'm Jill Strail, and I've got Sandra Waters from the House of Public Discourse with me. She is in Pennsylvania. She is from Pennsylvania, and we welcome Salem Snow, who is the candidate for District 2 in Pennsylvania, running against incumbent Brendan Boyle. Hi, Salem. We're so glad you're running against that guy, and we're glad you're here.
Hi, Jill. Thanks for having me.
Sure, absolutely. You're in Kensington, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Would you say that?
Yeah, I do live in Kensington.
Okay.
Would you say that's probably a poor section of Philadelphia? Like, what's the median income level of people there? What kind of money do they make on the average?
So most people in Kensington actually make less than $20,000 a year. Which is
good Lord have mercy.
Yeah, it's rough. Which is also the average income of the entire congressional district.
I thought the average income was $46,000.
So for PA-2, the average income is actually around $20,000. Okay. I believe when it was PA-13 before they redistricted a couple years ago that it was closer to 45.
Okay.
That's not, doesn't leave much room for walking around money.
Not at all. Not at all.
No. And you've got some initiatives to help maybe change that. Can you talk a little bit about the People's Bailout? Because I think that's just an incredibly wonderful innovation with your platform. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So the People's Bailout is based on two concepts. The first being the COVID responses our government should have had at the beginning of the pandemic and throughout the pandemic. And the second is the concept that we should be bailing out working class people instead of bailing out the 1%, the corporations, the banks, like Congress has done so many times over the decades. So it's kind of an array of policies. It's kind of based on the needs of working class people. A lot of it is, not actually new policies. It's policies that have been implemented in other countries, that have been successful in other countries, that have uplifted the working class. So, a lot of it's not even new. It's just things that they're doing in other countries that have worked and that the United States should also be doing. Everything from the emergency inaction of a single-payer Medicare for all system to ongoing stimulus payments that are retroactive to the beginning of the pandemic, as well.
How much a month are those stimulus payments? Didn't you say it was how much a month were those to each person? Awesome. Okay. Didn't Sandra? Didn't you say Iceland did something like this?
When was that? A completely different tack on there after 2008, actually, when the stock market crashed. They bailed the bankers. They jailed the bankers, and they bailed out the citizens. Those bankers are actually still in jail, and Iceland is one of the countries that has a very high standard of living for the average person. I think there are other countries. I know that Switzerland was throwing around a minimum income, sort of, so that, you instead of collecting, say, a welfare benefit, everybody would be entitled to money. If you didn't make a certain level of money, then the government would subsidize whatever you needed above that. Okay. So it gives incentive to people to keep working, but then, they don't have to stay below the poverty level if their income keeps them at the poverty level. Okay. So, European countries are looking at that type of model to bring up the quality of life their citizens.
So that's what we need to do here, and it sounds like Salem's got a really good blueprint for this, which includes the cancellation of rent and mortgage payments, and also high-speed internet as a public service. Now that rent and mortgage stuff is going to become extremely problematic this next year as the extensions on the forgiveness on right moratorium are going to run out, and you're going to see a lot of first-time people who don't even know where the nearest shelter is. Can you speak to that part of your initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually, in our district, especially in Kensington, we've already seen, evictions, whether legal or not, which is, not exclusive to Kensington. There's been all sorts of, illegal evictions across the country. So we've already seen, regular people who are already, on the brink, barely making ends meet, get pushed out of their own homes. And you're right, you made an excellent point that a lot of these people do not know where to find what little help there is that the government offers, which is a major problem. It's actually been something I've been active with a couple years now, is kind of going around to areas in Kensington that are very much in need, including some of the encampments, and kind of connecting people to what services are available. But it's not enough. We don't have enough services. We don't have enough social safety nets to make sure that people are protected from these things. And, if Congress has the ability to keep corporations afloat, including corporations that are already billionaire owned and don't need that help, then they can certainly do it for working class people here.
One of the things that I noticed that is like the elephant in the room, no one's talking about, also specific to these people who are first time being evicted, is that you can't just, the minute you get a couple of paychecks ahead or something, jump right back in and have a place to live, because they want first and last month's rent. They want all the payments that you have missed, as you're supposed to be playing catch up all this time, which if you could have been doing that, you would not be in this situation. So it sort of begs the question. But not only that, but the biggest thing I see, and I don't know if you can speak to this, is how are you going to overcome that rental history or the mortgage history? And they're not going to let you, quote, use the pandemic, unquote, for all of these different things, when in fact that's what blew everything sky high.
Right. So
how would yeah.
We need to wipe evictions, right? Like they don't need to follow these people around, affect their ability to rent, to get a home, that sort of thing. And really the only way to do that in our current system is to give them a clean slate, right? Like a lot of these people were forced out of work because of, government shutdowns, and for better or for worse, the fact of the matter is that people were impacted. People did not have income anymore. Millions of Americans lost their jobs, and it was not their fault that they got pushed into this economic insecurity, which is why we need to, have these social safety nets there to catch them, especially when it's at no fault of their own.
Okay, so what you're saying is not just the $2,000 a month per person, but also, and not just the eviction stopped, but the blank slate. That's really sounds like it's key to people being able to start over in real time, rather than just in concept.
Absolutely.
I would think. Yeah.
Move from an eviction to your car, and then with no permanent address, trying to move forward is a huge obstacle. And if you're
if you still got a car, if you've even still got a car,
yeah. But if you're a single mom or whatever, you have to worry about how you're going to keep your kids in school. You got to worry about how you're going to pay for daycare. There's so many more. And I was looking at some of the statistics and graphs saying that, the highest poverty rate in the district is with single women and women with children. And, I'm sure Salem, I don't know, although my mom grew up in Kensington, I don't know for sure right now, but I'm sure daycare or, affordable daycare is probably a huge obstacle from a lot of women being able to work full time. Okay.
It absolutely
I know.
is. Like, I don't think the cost of childcare is really talked about enough, right? Like, there's some places where childcare can be upwards of $12,000 a year.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah. And rent is just skyrocketing too. I did a little, rental.com yesterday and just looked for some housing in Kensington. And if you're looking for a 1-bedroom place, the cheapest one that was listed was like $585 a month. So if you're one of those people making 20 grand a year before taxes, even 585 is a stretch. Okay?
Absolutely.
And that was just one apartment. So I mean, the inavailability of low income housing is another huge obstacle. Okay, it's a huge obstacle for people. Even elderly people like Jill and I are representing the retirement age folks. Okay, if they're evicted, if they don't own their own place and they are evicted and they're on Social Security they get $1,000 a month, say, okay, how are they going to live in a $585 apartment? Okay, so there's just so many obstacles once you find yourself in that situation where you're homeless. Okay, the amount of obstacles that the United States puts in your way to let you move forward from that, okay, is I think what drives the level of desperation that you see in areas like Kensington with the higher crime rates and the higher drug addiction problems, and people become hopeless. And what they need is someone like you to come in and say, hey, don't be hopeless. There are things we can do. These are the things we can do right now. These are the things we're hoping to do in the future. So I think your platform sounds really progressive and positive for folks who are already in a desperate situation.
Yes, it was actually kind of crafted that way, right? Based around the idea that, like, if the most vulnerable of us is not protected, then are we really doing what's ethical? Are we really doing what needs to be done? Because if our most vulnerable and our most oppressed are not taken care of, then really none of us are taken care of.
Yeah, because it even though it's not happening to you personally, it can affect you in other ways. And so, kudos to you for standing up for the folks in District 2 in Kensington. So they need a proper voice.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. I think Kensington has actually largely been ignored by elected officials all in Philadelphia, from the state level, the city level, the federal level, and a large part of that is because they don't have political capital. They don't have the finances to fund campaigns. They don't, we don't have the highest voter turnout. And I mean, with living conditions the way they are, and they voted and they voted and they voted and they haven't seen any substantial changes. They've just seen things get worse. They've seen politicians line their pockets from developers and corporations, and even the people who are responsible for the opioid crisis.
Right.
So you can't trust elected officials like that. And so we need to get out here and give these people something to vote for, right? Like, you really have to give some people something to vote for, not just something to vote against.
Yes. Some hope. Like, if I get behind this guy, I can see that maybe my future will improve. Okay. And, the fact that the textile mill shut down and a lot of the industry that used to be in Kensington and kept that whole blue collar economy afloat for 100 years. Okay, has now been shipped overseas or moved out to the burbs, or, my grandfather was a trolley driver. Okay, he drove a trolley, and my great grandfather, he had a butcher store in Frankfurt, and they grew up in Frankfurt and Mayfair. My mom went to Girls High, so I have a family history from that area. Okay, and although it was always blue collar, my mom grew up on 571 Lippincott, East Lippincott Street in Kensington. And it was always blue collar, but the people were not desperate, even through the Depression, which my mom went through. Okay. So I feel badly that there's how do you move out of that when there's no work, if there's no, like, union jobs, no hopeful, you can't afford college, you can't afford to, take that next step up. And having been a single parent myself, for most of my adult life, I have empathy for women who are trying to find adequate care for their kids and find an affordable, safe place for them to be raised. And they need the type of initiatives that you're putting forward, with the $2,000 subsidy and the build, what are you calling it? Build Back Better? What's the name of your program?
Oh, the People's Platform.
The People's Platform, yes. Okay.
Or the People's Bailout. Either one.
People's Bailout, yeah. So, I mean, those are the kind of initiatives that need to take place. And along with, higher percentage of volunteers that are willing to go to the area and work with people and help them get signed up for things that they're eligible for. So good for you.
Well, I've got a question about this incumbent, Brendan Boyle. Unfortunate last name, by the way. He reminds me of the shiny bench on the sidewalk in town, where you might want to sit down if you're a businessman or a mother with a child in tow, maybe rest your feet for a minute. But then it's sort of deceptive, because Brendan is sort of like the spikes you hadn't planned to lean against if you close your eyes. It's the move along kind of initiative that you don't know that is there until you've sat there. And I'm just wondering how someone like he can stay in, if he obviously is either does not know what people are going through or does not care. So obviously anything anybody does is going to raise the level of helping these people. But why does the Democrat, in your opinion, why does the Democratic Party, why is he their boy? Is it just because everything stays status quo, or what do you think? What do you think about that?
So that's part of it, right? Another part of it is, if you kind of look at his history, he went to an Ivy League school. He, did all the right things that a politician does, majored in the right thing, political science, went and interned for like a Democratic official, and, was friendly to the party and upheld all the right people and so on and so forth, right? It's kind of like that old George Carlin quote, like, it's one big club and you ain't in it.
And you're not in it.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Really.
So, we've seen the Democratic Party apparatus protect so many politicians that shouldn't have been there, right? Because if we're being honest, corruption is not just one side of the aisle, it's both parties.
Yes.
And they very much protect individuals who have served them kind of regardless of what they've done. Andrew Cuomo is a great example of that. Boyle did all the things that, you technically should do to be a politician. But the thing is, people have kind of outgrown that in the last few cycles, especially, right? Like, we're kind of over that. We don't want the people that, went to the nice schools and worked for the right people and all this, that, and the other. We just want regular, everyday people who have lived the struggle to go in there and, fight on our behalf. So yeah, it's largely just a part of, the status quo protecting itself and the players that protect the status quo.
Yeah. I called him Creamy Casper Milk Toast to Johnny. It's like Democrat light. Okay. So he looks the package. Okay. So, he looks the, upper middle class white boy, successful package that the Democratic Party always tries to put forward. Okay. But your district is anything but Creamy Casper Milk Toast. Okay. Your district is really homogenous. I mean, there's a good, diversity of ethnicities and races and religions. And, this all has to, play into who's representing them. I mean, they don't necessarily want the Nancy Pelosi to come down there and tell them how great their lives are, when it's obvious every day that that's not the case. So, Sometimes I think people are at the point where they're tired of being told what they need. They already know what they need.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
okay, I would like. Hey, first of all, Salem, this is Johnny. How are you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
We are glad you're here, and I wanna read a quote. I want to quote you, okay?
Okay.
And I think it kind of goes with what you guys are talking about right now. And here is your quote. Here's I quote Salem Snow. We tried playing nice in politics and didn't get us anywhere. We can't give politicians or organizations a pass on corruption just because they're in our party, said Snow. And I would like you to elaborate a bit on that, sir, and then I'm going to jump out of here. But I think it's a very important point. We're noticing with young lions, progressive lions like yourself, you're having to win two battles, not just the battle against the Republican right wing authoritarians, but there's a battle within. Let's be honest. So I would like for you to discuss your experience with dealing with being uh, a progressive minded first openly gay candidate in your district, and I'll get out of here.
Sure. So I've noticed there's been a tendency from some people to kind of, shy away from criticizing members of our own party, which we've all heard it, right? Like people will say, well, but Trump is worse, but Matt Gaetz is worse, but this Republican is worse, Ted Cruz is worse. And, yes, but that does not make the people we're talking about any better. And when we have people, here's the thing. A lot of Democrats talk very progressive. They say the right things. They say they support the right things, but the way that they vote and the way that they legislate is completely different. Boyle is a prime example of this. Like he voted with the Space Force. He has voted with Republicans several times. He has voted against pro-choice legislation, against expanding LGBTQ rights. And these things are things that should be really basic for even, the most centrist liberal Democrats, right? Like we're all kind of should be on the same page about social issues, but it turns out that we're not. A lot of these folks say the right things and do something different. And excusing them doesn't help us. It actually hurts our causes. Having pro-life or anti-choice Democrats hurts our causes. Having bigoted Democrats hurts our causes. And this transfers over economically as well with funding. Where do these candidates get their money? Because that's how they're going to vote. If they're funded by Big Pharma, like Boyle is, they vote with Big Pharma. And there's so many Democrats who are, almost completely funded by corporations, which means that those are the people they serve, right? They think they're above serving the people. They're above serving constituents because we don't have money to give them. We don't have anything to offer them to enrich themselves. And these corporations do. So, that's where a lot of this corruption is. We've got to tackle the funding. We've got to get rid of people who are doing the work of corporations and the 1% instead of the work of the people.
And I wish the people realized they could make a change, that they do have a voice. Okay. But I think that the last couple of election cycles, for example, in Pennsylvania, your first obstacle is going to be the primary. But in Pennsylvania, independents can't vote in a primary.
That's right.
Okay. So unless they're willing to change their party affiliation to Democrat, and a Democrat can't vote for a Republican, and a Republican can't vote for a Democrat. So they have to have their party affiliation changed to Democrat to even be able to vote in the primary. And a lot of independents are so, excuse my French, but they're so pissed at the Democratic Party that they just, out of stubborn, refuse to go in and change to be able to vote in the primary. Okay. And that just increases, the obstacle for people who are progressive. Okay, not just you, but other people in the state of Pennsylvania who are progressive that are currently going to be running for office. Okay, that's an obstacle, and I think that's something that as Pennsylvanians we need to address. Why can't an independent vote in a primary? Okay, I mean that all that does is enrich the parties that be. But it gives, right now I think they said in Pennsylvania like 44% of the vote is independent. That's a
Yeah,
huge voting block. Okay.
right.
Well, we're talking about Salem, about a voting block. But when Johnny mentioned that, I wanted to jump in there about you being the first openly gay candidate, and I have the strong notion that if that were more of of something that you talked about, you would have a huge wave of support, because there are a lot of people who are openly, there are a lot of people who aren't, there are a lot of people who are conflicted, but but if they knew they had a champion in someone like you, who's also progressive, and you espouse the things that all of Bernie's initiatives, they would trust you. They need someone who they know instinctively, intrinsically will champion their cause and protect them. And I really think that you would have a huge following if you led with that, because it's one thing to be a progressive and we have this laundry list of things and we say, oh, well, we're for diversity and we don't want the same-sex marriage rolled back. But you could get up there and say why, and they would absolutely know that you were coming from a corner of authenticity. And I just stand by that. I really do. I think you would just have it made in the shade if you did that. You'd have every one of Bernie's supporters right behind you. And what do you say to that? What's your take?
I agree, actually. It's interesting. When I first started running, um, one of the first community to really like get behind me and stick with me, like right before we had any clout, before we were notable, before we were viable, any of those things, was the LGBTQ plus community. They
Right.
immediately got in our corner. They immediately like stuck with us, which was inspiring, frankly, to see. Like as a gay person myself, to see other like gay and trans and bi folks, etc. Kind of like come to my corner and be like, hey, we're supporting you from day one. It was an amazing thing to see, and I think that it's actually a sign that people are ready for more diversity. People are ready to see, more things. And the fact that if I was elected, I would be the first openly LGBTQ person elected to Pennsylvania's Congress. And while I do also find this exciting, I also think that it's like way past due. It's way past due. It's 2021. We should have had a lot more diversity, like in elected officials by now.
Yes, I agree totally with that sentiment. Okay, and I think that you have a lot of good young people in your district, as well as surrounding areas from Temple and different things, who are big Bernie supporters and would be, and even me, like I was a Bernie delegate, even though I'm not young. My sister, a lot of not elderly, but older women and men support Bernie as well. And we believe we've been fighting for these things our whole life. Okay. And here we are, 2021, still fighting for the same things we've been fighting for 40 years. Okay. And, I think it's a strength for you. Okay. And that you are not hesitant about speaking out for your population. And, I think you should lead with that. I think it is an important aspect. And I think your progressive platform will pull in a lot of young people, and young people are where it's at. That's our future. Yeah. Jill and I and Johnny, we had our chance. We kind of mucked it up, so.
Yeah. Well, our generation, the history stands for itself. I mean,
yes, exactly.
That's one thing I've always said about what I've in my advocacy is that history has hindsight of 2020. I mean, we know if you got any brain cells left, but say them, we're reaching the 30-minute part of the interview, and we can continue on. We can go on for to an hour at least, okay? But I want to say right here, I don't know what your plans are for today, but we are excited
Yes.
about having you, our tribe, okay? It's not that you're just a member of the House of Public Discourse, okay? It's you're a member of our tribe. And guess what? I'm 61. You're how old, Mr. Stone?
31.
Well, I am a fan of yours, so I want to give you some encouragement that you're not just going to resonate with the young crowd as well. We've got work to do with the older voter, and that's where
The older voter needs to be reminded of being a younger voter in the 60s and 70s. That's what needs to happen, because the only thing that this generation that you and I share, Johnny, that gave something giving going forward that you
right,
can stand solid on is the 18 vote. Now, people of Salem's age group, and I have a daughter within a couple of years of him, and she reminds me every day, Mom, the millennials, there are more of us than there are of you, for the first time in history. And it's going to be their world. They're going forward. We can advise. We lived through those times. That helped instruct what we are stuck with now, and any blue will do is a hallmark of that kind of non-think
yeah,
hive speak. It
right.
just is maddening. So we want to give our advice and wisdom, but we're like the moms who are pushing you out the door with both feet in your back pockets. Okay, it's like, go and be wonderful, please. We messed it up, but we can tell you how to fix it. But
Yeah,
no, you guys are so necessary. You're the warriors for equality and peace and justice, and you're fighting the same people that we were fighting 50 years ago. And
Mhm.
nothing has changed materially, except that we're running out of time, and we cannot always find the real progressives like you, Salem. We're finding a lot of neolibs like Buster Brown. What's I'm sorry. What is his name?
Brendan Boyle.
But yeah, he's like, well, I'm sorry. He's sort of like when you go in to buy a loaf of organic 100% stone ground wheat bread, okay? And instead, you get something that looks like it, has no nutritional value, but it happens to be the right color, okay? And that's it. That's all you got. And but you're the real deal, and we're just so excited. We'd have you on every week if we could get, we want people to see you and hear you and know, and for all of the people who are gay and struggling and need a champion, you're it, man. You got to do it. You got to. We're
okay.
pushing.
I tell you, Salem. Let me ask you this. First of all, before I ask you this, Sandy, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Oh, you're
Thank you
welcome.
for being here. I
Yeah,
think
I'd like to take an opportunity to maybe meet Salem at some point, and talk about like a little bit of strategy over phone banking. My sister's willing to phone bank, and
right,
I think we need to get some young people involved in phone banking and different
right,
things that we can do to help move the
exactly,
campaign
exactly.
forward. And I'm only 30 minutes outside of Philly. I live in Montgomery County, so you
Oh,
know
okay.
yeah, I'm willing to come down and meet up with you and see what we can do. And we have a pretty good Bernie following back here that maybe we can get some other folks behind you to help you get past the primary. Okay, because like I said, in Pennsylvania, if you're an independent, you can't vote. So that's another thing we have to push is people who are independents. I know you're an independent, but you need to just switch it. You can switch it right back after you
Right,
vote.
right.
Okay, but we need to get you over that next hurdle, which is the
Right.
primary. Okay,
Outstanding points, Sandy.
you know,
Outstanding points. And getting,
and
Salem, let me ask you this real quickly. Have you, first of all, and let me bear with me. I need to get your site up. Where can people find Salem Snow, and where they can find to donate to your campaign? I know Salem for Congress, right? .com.
Right. So we have links to everything from, our Act Blue donation link to all of our social medias on salemforcongress.com.
Okay, let me get my ducks in a row here. I should have already had this up, man, and I apologize, but it won't take but just a second. If I'm not mistaken, that would be this site right here.
That's correct.
Let me bring up the full site, and what you can do. It's got your issues. It's got some of your press releases. But most importantly, it's got where they can donate.
Yes.
To your effort, because let me tell you, there's no way to soft shell this. You've got a tough road ahead of you.
Absolutely.
And you need all the help you can get. And we just want to let you know the House of Public Discourse Radio Network, the House of Public Discourse Forum, we are here and we want to be of service.
Yes.
Thank
For
you
your
so much.
cheerleaders.
Yeah, we want to help you.
We want to be of service. And I know Jill's got some words that she would like to say. Jill, first of all, I want to thank you very much once again. You put together a really great show. I think we're going to be. You're absolutely
Salem made
correct.
it easy. Salem made it easy, man.
No, it was all you.
Actually, Salem, I think it would be a great thing for us to do some issue-specific type shows.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we can block out some time. Or for example, we're running 36 minutes right now, and in this day and time in America, you gotta, 30 minutes is if you can hold somebody for 30 minutes, you've done pretty good. And what we want to shoot for is an hour, okay, of Salem Snow and how he's going to make things better for District PA-2. And
Awesome.
we thank
That's
you very
right.
much. We thank you very much for being here. And Jill, I'm gonna let you end you. I know you've got a few things you'd like to say in closing.
I just want to say that it's been not just a pleasure, but an honor to have Sandy here and Salem here, and we all just sort of sitting around dishing about the bad stuff, but beyond that, how to fix it, and the specifics. Well, not just that, but have it, talk the talk, but we got the walk. We do. And we've got what it takes going forward. We just need to just be visible, and have people hear us and see us. And thank you so much. I'm Jill Strail.